Duke speaks, telling him if there is a problem. The marriage contract is a traditional thing. He doesn't mind adding some conditions if necessary. Rosalind replies she doesn't think adding conditions would make it any better. This part, her name. Does this mean that she is unfit to marry him? What does he not like about her? Head of the Poston Mayer family, the most noble in the empire, and the only Archduke of the empire. She heard he is the best knight and has a lot of money. But isn't this their first meeting? Come to think of it, her life has always been like this. As the first daughter born in their noble family, it can't be done because she is the successor. For the sake of the family, she started training for succession at a very young age. For her father's confession, she endured that tough time. And when she was 12 years old, miraculously, when her younger brother was born, all the training she was receiving was discontinued, and she was sent to the academy as if she was expelled. However, Alphonse, her brother, won't be able to get training due to his weakness. Father tells her he will let her in with Darbel as brother-in-law, so when Alphonse has grown enough, hand over the position. Her life was a tape where everything was decided by others. One day, a knight shouted, "Crimson Rose family members who violate state laws must plead guilty and appear." Mother asked, "What does that mean?" Rosalind replied, "It looks like her dad got himself into a big gamble, died while fleeing the scene, and since they found the evidence, tell them not to get angry and arrest them." Mother spoke. She does not ask because she does not understand it. Why does all this happen suddenly? Rosalind replied she will stop them, hide with Alphonse. Mother stated, "Is she crazy? What if they hurt her child before help comes?" Rosalind replied, "So she ordered her to hide." She said it plainly. Butler asked, "Please wait. What kind of insolence is this? At least let her get ready." The next moment, blood was coming out from his throat. Knight stated, "Get rid of the rebels. Bring everything hidden." Rosalind asked, "What are they doing?" Captain spoke, "Count broke the law of the land and was gambling. This insults the dignity of the aristocrats and insults the prestige of the empire. She knows it's a felony equivalent to treason." Rosalind replied she doesn't know. Captain told her if she resists in this way, the sin will become heavier. Rosalind replied, "But if she does not resist here, she will plead guilty. She can't let them get caught with no involvement in her father's gambling. If they want to catch her, they will have all the time." Rosalind did not show they are following. Now get this. Rosalind attacked one knight. Then others also attacked her. Rosalind defended herself. Suddenly, her mother spoke, "Help her." Rosalind asked, "Are they holding her mom and brother hostage?" Captain replied the lady had not registered. She would not have been threatened in this way. Rosalind spoke, "Leave her mother and brother." Next scene. Knight stated, "Forget the idea of going to the capital. Even if it is not a sword, it is a weapon. She used to run. Is she afraid now? Why doesn't she say things?" Rosalind replied, "Even if it wasn't her, he would not be a knight for long anyway. He is lucky he only lost his wrist. He can retire with honor." Knight started kicking her. Rosalind thought, "No, if she goes to the capital, she will be executed. Perhaps it is better to die than to live like this." Why did the kicks stop? Who is that man? The Duke asks, "Is this the behavior of the Empress's knights? What are they doing here?" The captain replies that Her Majesty has ordered him to capture the Crimson Rose family. Rosalind thought that look. It's as if the winds of winter hit her. It doesn't look like a living thing at all. Is it because of the little blue in his eyes? The Duke asks why the palace was destroyed. It looks like a person can hide behind a tire or a flower pot. Go back to the palace and rest. He will take this with him. The captain speaks he will be in trouble. There was an order from Her Majesty not to hand over the guilty to anyone. The Duke replies, His Majesty said he can take it. Do not tell him that his master's order is higher than the king's. Next scene, the doctor said, "Fortunately, the bone is not damaged." Terrible, by the way. They are not even back alley robbers, but how could the knight harm the lady's body? After some time, the Duke came and asked, "Is she Rosalind? Did she know him?" Rosalind replied, "Yes, she is Rosalind, and she knows he is the only Archduke in the Empire." Then the Duke asks some questions about her family. After that, he asks, "Is there no one on her mother's side who looks like her?" near or far will be fine. If there was a woman about 10 years older. Rosalind thought, what is he talking about? Then replied she didn't have much contact with her mother's relatives. Pink hair and green eyes are symbols of the Crimson Rose family. The Duke continues, according to the testimony of the knights, she totally cut one of the knights' wrists, as if she were dusting in the hallway with a broom. Rosalind replied it was self-defense. She did not commit a crime, but she would have been dragged to jail. She had to resist to prove her innocence. It is also written in the law book they are studying. The Duke stated things don't go according to the textbooks. Several members of the Blue Knight have been injured and retired. It will be concluded that there was another accident, so there is no doubt against her. It is difficult to break the tendon just by guiding the hand holding the sword. It is difficult even for a skilled rider. Rosalind asks, is it difficult for the Archduke? The Duke asks, does she want to add the charge of harming the knights? Rosalind replies she will take responsibility for what she did, but she will plead not guilty to what she did not do. The Duke speaks, this is not a wise decision either. Does she know why the Empress's knight moved? Rosalind replies because there is evidence that her father gambles, so her family was accused of that. She thought thinking about it. It seems like they were looking for something other than their family. The Duke asks, does she have any idea? Rosalind replies no, she does not, she doesn't know. The Duke speaks, then think about it carefully. Don't even think about getting out of here until she thinks about it. Of course, she can't even think about it. Rosalind thought, what is this? Isn't he supposed to tell her? After that, Heinz told him His Majesty's younger brother, Count Fegelhoven, came. Next scene, the Count speaks. He heard Rosalind is under his protection. That criminal had lost his title and property, and his daughter's survival in itself was a sin. Since the Crimson family crime is already clear, he guesses there is no point in questioning, so they would like him to deliver Rosalind. The Duke replies Rosalind is currently injured, she is under his protection and care now. Can he ask why he is asking him to release her and hand her over to him? The Count speaks. There is no point of interrogation, the criminal died while escaping. The Duke states the criminal has not been involved in an accident, rather, he was killed by an assassin in the wagon. He has witnessed many cases of murder, which occurred as a result of the loss of a gambler. It didn't take him more than half a day to collect his earnings and return to his balance. But he was assassinated as soon as the knights arrived, the Count said. This is none of his business. The judge will decide whether this incident is murder or not. The Duke replies no, as the Grand Duke, dealing with this also falls on him. It is not just the Emperor's business. He cannot abandon any member of his family without clear evidence. The Count asks, Rosalind is a member of his family. The Duke replies, Rosalind that he wants, she is his wife. The Count is shocked. On the other hand, Rosalind thought this place, looking at this huge clock, this must be a dream. Then a voice came, please wait for him. Rosalind thought this is the voice of a young child, she has had this dream many times. But this is the first time she has heard someone else's voice. Who is this? Again the voice came. He has to do it, can she do this for him? So please wait for him, he will save her. Rosalind asks what does that mean? Who is he talking about? The next moment, Rosalind wakes up and thought this is the first time she has heard his voice. Who is this? After some time, Rosalind asks why does he still live here until this morning? The interrogation ended a few days ago. The doctor replies, does she know that she is in a very dangerous situation right now? The Grand Duke seized the criminal, as they say, which the Empire ordered to arrest, and the Grand Duke may face charges of treason because of this. It is said that someone demanded that the Grand Duke hand her over, but the Grand Duke refused this. Rosalind asks, doesn't this put the Grand Duke in an awkward position? There is no reason for the Grand Duke to help her. On the other hand, the Emperor stated, the Duke knows he cares about him. If he told him he wanted to marry any woman, he would immediately let him do it regardless of who she is. Why has he kept his marriage a secret without his knowledge? And he knows marriage between nobles requires the approval of the Emperor. The Duke speaks, he is sorry about that, he had no choice, Rosalind and he wanted to marry so badly, but her father could not agree. and he could not make His Majesty break the laws of the country. Rosalind is a minor, and it is impossible for her to marry without the permission of her guardian. The emperor asks, "What? How old is she?" The Duke replies she is 18. She is going to be an adult soon. She hasn't celebrated her birthday yet. The emperor states he is still surprised. He always thought that the Duke would be single for the rest of his life, but he is still grateful to him for saving the Empress 6 years ago. The Duke replies he doesn't remember that. After some time, the emperor thought why the crimson rose. After all, he had to uproot the followers from the very beginning. Back at the Duke's palace, the doctor tells her, after the Duke got older, his memory became fuzzy, and he kept looking for a woman by the name of Rosalind. That's all he can tell her. Telling her more will be difficult for them. Rosalind thought, he is looking for a woman he knew nothing about except her name, because of his fuzzy memory. He looked like her and made her stay here, although he doesn't know her directly, except he is protecting her. Why the hell would he do that? Rosalind said, "What should he do?" The Duke stated, "Just sign it. It is permission from the emperor, and the marriage contract." Both of them were shocked. Rosalind thought, what marriage? Rosalind asked if he was saying that when she marries him this spring, she will not be a crimson. The Duke replied yes, she will not be responsible for the sins of her parents. Her mother and brother were fined rather than jailed. They have to pay money to regain their title. The Postenmeyers will pay for everything. Rosalind was shocked, then asked, she had no idea what he was talking about. Isn't it strange to marry a woman he doesn't even know? The Duke replied, is it strange that he would marry her to save her? If she doesn't marry him, she will end up rotting in jail. Rosalind asked if this means that he chose to marry her for her own good. The Duke replied he wanted to save her. Part of this sentence she did not understand. Rosalind thought a large aristocratic family is treated as important even in the empire. Is it really easy to make a decision like that? Rosalind asked if it was because she looked like someone the Duke was looking for. The Duke replied this is nonsense. There is nothing wrong with helping. Rosalind said whatever he thinks about it. Shouldn't he have just suggested it to her? The Duke replied he did not have time. As soon as she came, a messenger came wanting to take her back. Before he proposed to her, he had to speak with His Imperial Majesty first. Rosalind thought he talked like he cared about her, but he didn't even think about her question and made his decision alone. Of course, she herself had no other choice. Then said okay. She accepted his suggestion, but she had one condition. She wanted to concede in a duel with him. Next scene, Rosalind spoke, "Get ready." The next moment she attacked the Duke. He defended himself. Rosalind thought she knew he would push her hard. He has an excellent physique. He tried to unsheath the sword, but she changed the face of her sword from him. If she didn't dodge quickly, Rosalind said Duke promised her he wouldn't regret it later. It wouldn't hurt much. The next moment she was in the air, the Duke grabbed her and said the same, exactly the same. Who taught her fencing? Her skill matches his. Rosalind tried to remember. She must know her. Rosalind replied nobody taught her fencing. She learned it herself. Leave her, please. Then she said, Demi, call a doctor right away for the Duke. She will go first. Make sure he gets treated. After some time, Rosalind thought she felt like she did something wrong. She should have never compromised with him in the first place. Will he get angry and cancel this marriage contract? No, she had to stop thinking. It's better to forget what happened. Suddenly Rosalind thought she was walking in the park, but where is she now? It must be the backyard or something. She didn't know the palace was this big. Should she continue walking? Suddenly, she heard a voice. Rosalind thought, what was that sound? The person said that's simple. He hid in the professor's lab and stole the test paper and brought it to them. The boy replied, do it themselves. He doesn't want to do it. The other student said he thought that idiot was smart, but it turns out he is not. Then he wanted to get hit that hard. Suddenly, a stone hit his hand. The next stone hit another student. They wondered where this was coming from. Then it hit the tree. They were shocked and thought did the stone get stuck in the tree? After that, they ran away. The boy said thanks for helping him. He wanted to meet her in person and thank her. If she wanted, could she apply here? Rosalind thought she deliberately changed her location so that they would not catch her. How could he easily know her location? There are a lot of trees that can obscure his view. Rosalind asked if he was injured or something. The boy replied he was not, but thanks to her, he survived. Rosalind thought she wanted to drive them off him and save him, but he was overthanking her. The boy introduced himself as Julian, a third-year student at the Imperial Academy. Could he know her name? Help her, madam. Rosalind thought he is really a good person. She had not done anything great, but it embarrassed her. It's okay to tell him her name anyway. She won't tell him her last name. Then she said her name is Rosalind. Julian replied, this is the name of a good person. If she needs anything, please tell him. He wanted to return the favor to her. Of course, even if he said so, in any case, there is nothing to help her with. His intelligence alone won't do her any good, but he still wanted to help her. He will be back now and see her later. Rosalind thought she had to come back quickly. Then she thought the flowers that was in the palace garden, so she came back unharmed. After some time, Rosalind asked if his wound was okay. The Duke replied the wound is not deep. It will heal soon. Rosalind said she was sorry. The Duke asked why she was apologizing. Rosalind replied she thinks she overdid it. Her actions were childish against him. Rosalind thought although he decided to marry her himself, it will benefit her, not him. However, instead of expressing her gratitude, she asked him to duel and wounded him. She had to act mature. Rosalind thanked him and, as promised, she will sign the contract now. Is there anything else they should discuss? The Duke replied no. Currently there is nothing to discuss. Rosalind thought now that she has signed this paper, her situation will be completely different. After everything that happened to her, now this is her own power. She will put it to good use for the Duke. She will work hard in the future. Then she got to know she paid a fine of 70 million gold coins because of her family. Rosalind thought she really has to return the favor to him and work hard. The next day, Rosalind asked if she could learn the family business. The Duke asked what exactly she wanted to do. Rosalind replied anything a Duke's wife could do. The Duke responded she could do whatever she wanted. Rosalind thought, couldn't he be more precise? Then asked what exactly she should do. The Duke stated there was no need for specifics. She could do whatever she wanted. Didn't she learn family management at the academy? Rosalind replied that what she learned was just theory, not real practice. The Duke told her it was something she had to try for herself. She could start her business however she wanted. And if any problems arose, she should try to deal with them in her own way. Rosalind stated that she had to go through trial and error to learn, but the Duke's reputation was vast. What if she made a mistake? The Duke replied that the family situation was not so fragile, that she would spoil their reputation with a few simple mistakes. Rosalind thought she had to learn well so as not to be a defect to him. She thought she should never be wrong, just like in her family. But the matter was different with the Grand Duchy of Postenmeier. Their well-educated family was supported by several other aristocratic families, so even if she made a mistake, it would be considered the same for them. The Duke stated she could make mistakes. She could fail. The position of the Grand Duchess would be a solid support for her work. It didn't matter how many mistakes she made. The important thing was that she would succeed. Rosalind thought the reason why Postenmeier's followers were loyal, due to this type of leader. What a great family! Duke Melchior must have made a great effort to reach such a stage. As for her, she was just a girl who looked strong outwardly. Rosalind asked if he was still looking for that person, then thought about someone the Duke cherished. Someone who looked the same as her and had her name. The Duke replied no. Rosalind asked why. As it was his first love, the Duke said he did not mean she was his first love. Rosalind thought his facial expressions changed. He must be lying. All he would say next were lies. He didn't want to tell her the truth. He said she was just a precious friend, but it was even stranger than that. The Duke told her not to worry. He would never talk about it again. Rosalind replied that was decent. On the other hand, the Empress spoke. It was said that the Duke wanted to marry the Count's daughter, and the Emperor agreed. The person said the Countess and her son did not know anything either. This issue was between the Duke, the girl, and the Emperor. The Empress stated Rosalind was a poor girl. Why would the Grand Duke want to marry her? It seemed like she had no one else to help her. The problem was, what if she couldn't take back this strength that His Majesty bestowed upon her? She thought if the Count died, he would come back, but nothing had changed. There must be something fishy. Now His Majesty did not want to give it to her. It felt like she had lost a bet with this game. Next scene, Rosalind thought. Lucky she backed up the family enemies records. This must give her an idea of how to run a household. She thought there would be no records because the capital palace, since the Duchess is a substitute for the Duke in his absence, must take care of the management of the household. But even when Melchior is present, he became a duke after intense competition involving direct and even foreign lines. It only took a year to inherit the title. His leisure time for himself must have been very short. His father died early. He lived in the academy dormitory without anyone taking care of him. The Duke went through a similar period as she did. She thinks she understands what he felt in situations when meeting a friend or a teacher. He must think that someone is valuable to him. However, the fact that she can't find it just now baffles her. Is she still not in this world yet? Was that why the decision to marry her was so easy to accept? After some time, her mother and brother came. Her mother spoke. The Duke has announced that he will accept her as his wife. This is a great blessing. Her daughter is now a Grand Duchess. There is no such miracle in the world. Rosalind thought her mother did not know. Her family would look like a family of the Duchy of Postenmeier, nothing more. Everyone will laugh at her, saying they are a family with no further qualifications. Her mother said, until Alphonse becomes an adult, promise her that she will give him full support to run the palace. Rosalind replied, it's all debt anyway. Duke's support is normal. But there are debts. Even if she worked all her life, she would not pay them all. Her mother replied, it's true. But she have to be grateful for that. Shouldn't they do something to reimburse them for the money she spent? Will the Duke pay attention to this trivial matter? Didn't she ask about the Duke's family fortune? Rosalind spoke. They have debt on them. Her mother asked, what's up with her talking habits now? She almost went crazy because her father left. Now that she is Grand Duchess, she is ignoring her because she is just a countess. Rosalind replied, it's not like that. Her mother shouted, have she ever searched for what mother did for her? Instead, she must have been happy to meet this man. Don't make a fuss in the palace. She have not changed at all. Is she not ashamed of what she is doing? She is Alphonse's older sister. Rosalind replied, of course, she always have to set the example for Alphonse. Her mother stated, she have to think like that, otherwise, this marriage will be annulled. She is really a bad person. Rosalind thought, what the hell does her mother know about her? She has not taken care of her since she was born. She even pretended to forget her debut. Not to mention the social world, she could not share her friends' birthdays because of lack of money. Every day she felt more and more lonely. She thought it was just the caliph's harsh upbringing, but once her brother was born, they dealt with him normally. Rosalind spoke. If she really considered her part of the family, she should have treated her like she treat Alphonse. She is her daughter. Mother replied, why should she treat her like him? Is she like him? Rosalind stated, get out. She is sorry in advance. Please get out. She should have kicked her out since she came. She will take care of her brother and his responsibilities upon herself, and he will live comfortably in the palace. But since mother don't consider Rosalind her daughter, she don't have to take care of her anymore. Now please, Countess, get out. The emperor asked if it was difficult to hold a ceremony because she was in mourning. The Duke replied, yes, it is difficult to hold a funeral. However, holding a wedding in mourning is not permissible. This would be a disregard for his wife's feelings. The emperor stated, well, he understand her feelings, but if she doesn't have a problem, what do he think of the haste and marriage? Make sure to do this even if he cut everything short, present if he could sum it all. After that, the Duke thought it was possible for him to summarize everything, so all he had to do was call a priest and get married. Since the Empress was not targeting Rosalind right now, he should not leave her under targeting for as long as possible. The Duke saw Rosalind was there. The Duke asked if she wanted to escape from signing the marriage papers. Rosalind replied that she was kidding and just wanted to take a walk and get some fresh air. The Duke remarked that the moonlight was so bright, yet so dark that she couldn't walk alone and that he had to accompany her. He then noticed her red eyes and asked if they hurt. Rosalind told him not to bother. The Duke stated that he couldn't ignore it because he was her husband. Rosalind thought she got married to avoid consequences, and he accepted the marriage because she looked like the woman he loved. She felt relieved when the Duke reminded her that he was her husband. After some time, the Duke mentioned that he had something to tell her about the marriage. His Majesty had told him that they should at least hold a small formal ceremony, so it would be better to do it briefly. Rosalind asked what he meant by short. The Duke explained that they needed to call the priest and exchange vows and oaths. Since her family was there, maybe they could call her closest ones. Rosalind thought about family. The Duke wondered if what he said about their marriage upset her, maybe because he repeated his words. The Duke told her that if she didn't want to, there was no need for all this, they could do something else. Rosalind thought she still remembered what happened that day. She replied that it was okay, and asked if his wounds were okay since she had hurt his shoulder. The Duke replied that he was fine and had no wounds. What the Duke actually meant was that there was no pain. But Rosalind understood that she would soon feel the same. Rosalind said this was a big problem. The Duke wondered if he had said something wrong. In fact, the injury was bad, but he had the ability to recover quickly and bear the pain, so there wouldn't be any big problems. He noticed her red eyes and wondered if she was mad at him. Was it because of the presence of her mother and younger brother, or because he came home late every day, or because the servants did not like it? Did she feel any discomfort? The Duke wondered what he should say to Rosalind. Come to think of it, it had been a long time since he had hung out with someone. Should he take off his coat and give it to her? But she didn't seem cold at all. What should he do? Rosalind then said, "Let's count. It's late." She thought that their conversation did not work, even though it was short. This didn't happen once or twice. As soon as she saw him, she knew he was a careless person. She should have walked without talking. Maybe that would be more comfortable. She had no idea what he was thinking. Would this marriage really work? On the other hand, the Emperor said he walked a lot in the cold air and needed the Empress to warm him up. The Empress replied that His Majesty should go to the other side before she kicked him out. The Emperor asked if she was still angry and begged for her forgiveness, saying he had no hope of living if she hated him. He was ready to do anything for her. If she needed anything, she should tell him. The Empress replied that she needed nothing. The Emperor continued, saying he wanted to live with her and die with her, but whatever she wanted, he would do it, whatever it was. The next day, the butler spoke. Countess Crimson wants to see her. Rosalind replied, "Please decline her request. Even hotels will be enough for her. When the Crimson Mansion is built, she will be back, so it's better for her to stay in a hotel for now." Rosalind thought, didn't he understand? It might be inappropriate for her to dismiss her mother, but it's a different matter now. She had to show a relaxed appearance. If the Duke were in her place, he wouldn't need an explanation. Rosalind asked, "Was there a servant appointment yesterday?" The butler replied, "Yes," Rosalind said. Since he chose servants for her palace, she can now choose by herself. Bring all the records to her. The butler gave her the records, and told her that it was true that there were people who did not have an identity or recommendations, no matter how hard they tried. He didn't think she would accept them. Rosalind replied, "It's okay. Send them in right now." The butler replied, "Impossible. This person made a contract with a family 2 days ago." Rosalind stated, "Why does he have an employment contract with them? She is given in charge at Postenmeyer's house. It's good for him to work here." Then by calling the 3 people listed on the paper, she would cancel the contract herself. When he hire a servant in the future, it is better to consult with her first. After some time, Rosalind thought all the servants in the house were doing a good job, but something is strange. Alphonse came in and said, "Sister, the bathroom." Rosalind thought, bathroom, but he is at an age where he can go to the bathroom on his own. Perhaps he is afraid because the place is strange to him. Rosalind replied, "Well, let's go." After some time, Alphonse told her, "Sister, he didn't mean to go to the bathroom. Yesterday he heard the servants belittle her. Last night, sleeping alone was very scary, sister, she kicked her mother out. It was the first time he saw her so angry, so he wanted to go find mother. Then he heard the servants talking to each other, saying, "Isn't it a shame? The Grand Duke overlooks all the women of the duchy and marries a poor girl. The owner chose her, but still, there is a rumor saying they are criminals. Did they see she kicked her mom out? It is clear that she isolated herself from her family. He refused to be a butler, and they will not accept working for this mistress. What they think of causing deliberately accident to embarrass her." Rosalind was angry. On the other hand, the Duke asks if Rosalind really expelled her mother. The butler replied, "Correct." The Duke asked if he had something to say, to speak up. The butler replied, "Is it okay with him? She kicked her mom out, it seems." The Duke stated that Rosalind took that position for a reason. Since she banished the Countess, her mother must have done something to upset her. The butler said, "But what about her mother's reputation?" The Duke asked, "Reputation? Who would dare speak of Rosalind's reputation?" The butler replied, "Nobody understands, but if this continues." The Duke stated, "Whatever it is, let Rosalind do as she pleases." The Duke thought, that's why she was in a bad mood yesterday. He should have given her more attention and taken care of her mood. Why would the master servant talk about this today and not yesterday? She must be asleep by now. Should he go and check? The Duke entered her room and saw Rosalind. The Duke said, "Stay away, it's dangerous out there." Didn't she sleep yet? Rosalind, thinking he was trying to change the subject again, replied, "After the wedding, they have to go to the East Coast, so she wanted to enjoy the capital sky." The Duke thought, at that time, Rosalind was upset. Maybe Rosalind's family is not good. She does not have to bring her family, they just need a priest to perform the ceremony. Rosalind asked, "Does she closely resemble his Rosalind?" The Duke replied, "Enough so that he did the two of them wrong." Rosalind said, "She has been thinking about this for several days. She resents him for not caring about a lot of things, just as stupid feelings. Anyway, everything is fine now. This good fortune, but he will be disappointed." The Duke told her, Rosalind has never disappointed her, and Rosalind speaks it's okay. In the end, what he wants is the real Rosalind. The Duke spoke, but it's true that he want her as well, because the one he wanted to save was she. Rosalind asked, he don't know anything about her, and yet he showed such kindness to her. She think that going that far to help someone he don't even know is a remarkable thing. In any case, she is greatly indebted to him. She will surely repay your grace. The Duke thought, Heiser Grace, does she simply view his actions as something she has to repay? The Duke replied, there is no need for that, then thought it would have been nice if she had happily accepted it. But why does she try to keep her distance, as if she is speaking to someone else? The Duke stated, she won't be able to repay it anyway. Then he thought, damn it, why did he say something he didn't even mean? Rosalind replied, he is right, since he have status, power, and wealth, she will just do her best not to ruin his, or the Fatimire family name. The Duke tried to say that he just. Rosalind said, please don't worry, as long as she is his wife, there won't be any instance of damaging the family honor at the very least. She think that's the best she can do. Rosalind thought, yes, from the start, this level of relationship was enough. She just have to be loyal to the contract. This wasn't even a marriage with love from the start. She get the feeling that she is working as a caretaker of the family rather than getting married. She asked, all right, shall they head inside now? She will drop him off at his room. The Duke thought it seemed like Rosalind misunderstood his words, but because he was focused on their intertwined hands, he didn't know what he should say. The Duke spoke, she is too fast. He is being dragged by her, Rosalind replied. She apologized, then thought, she is sure the pace we were walking wasn't that fast. Does he dislike holding hands, or does he dislike that she is leading? Rosalind slipped her hand away. The Duke grabbed her hand and asked, do she dislike continuing to hold hands? Rosalind thought his face was blocked by the light, so she couldn't see his expression well. Rosalind replied, she don't dislike it, it's just that she was a bit surprised. The Duke stated, he was also surprised. Would it be all right to hold hands again? Rosalind replied, yes, then thought, isn't it wrong to make this sort of face when he already have someone else he love, but it's all unexpected. He is such a cold person, she thought. She assumed his body temperature would be low too, but his hands are warm and on the larger side with his long fingers. She don't know if it's because of his smooth skin, but it doesn't seem rough at all. Still, his hands make it obvious that he has wielded a sword for a long time. The calluses here are similar to her own. Rosalind asked, do he normally hold hands like this? The Duke asked, do she dislike it? Rosalind replied, it's not that she dislike it. Isn't it a bit uncomfortable? The Duke stated, it isn't uncomfortable. Rosalind thought, is he all right holding hands with just anyone? Don't tell he this person is more lascivious than she thought he was? Rosalind asked about the contract, so by chance, do we need to fulfill the matrimonial duties as well? The Duke thought she was talking about them making official public appearances together, then replied, we must obviously fulfill the duties. Rosalind thought, what, really? Then asked, wouldn't he feel upset if he did it with someone who only looks similar? The Duke also asked, upset? Why? Then he thought, last time, he is missing something about Rosalind's feelings. Rosalind spoke, Duke, she is still, wait, the Duke asked, why is she like this? Is she all right? Rosalind thought, we have not even had our wedding ceremony yet, so why so suddenly without any preparations? She is so taken aback that she can't even organize her thoughts. The Duke thought, he need to quickly lift himself up, but his heart is beating fast. Wait, what is he doing right now? Rosalind said. Well, it's as expected. He doesn't like it, since they are only alike and she is not actually that person. The Duke replied, no, he just. Rosalind cut his sentence off and said, she understand. She think he is right to stop. So please just return to his room. He know he have to leave early tomorrow. Sleep well. The Duke thought, just what? He just wanted to check that she was sleeping, but where did it go wrong? He must be out of his mind. Why did he do that sort of thing? What's right and what's wrong? He had forgotten to ask her that. The next day, Rosalind asked, what is all this? The butler replied, these are all the gifts sent from the imperial palace to congratulate her on her marriage. Rosalind thought, what should she do? We are just going to have a simple wedding, but with these gifts, they could use this countless amount of money and jewels for the wedding. Rosalind asked, can he show her a map of the capital, if possible? It would be nice to have a map with the most detailed markings of all the areas. After some time, a person spoke, so, Grand Duchess, do she wish to borrow this area? Rosalind thought, if they go to the east after completing the ceremony, she will be meeting subordinate families from the east. Will she be recognized by them? Truthfully, she is not confident. Rosalind thought, did she take the right path? She is sure the park was not this dense. Then she saw Julian running away. She said, come this way quickly. Students spoke, what's this? Didn't he come this way earlier? Rosalind thought it looked like they had all moved along. Was he getting chased by those same delinquent students she saw last time? Julian replied, no. He just encountered some classmates that he is not on good terms with. Thanks for helping him. He will now be heading back to the academy. Rosalind stated, one moment, he have injured his right leg. The injury will swell and he may not be able to walk tomorrow, so wait a moment. After some time, Rosalind spoke, all right, it's all done. If he is by chance being threatened by his classmates, then here is some advice. Julian replied, he will do as she says. Then he thought, she is a fascinating person. He knows this is weird, but it seems like he can smell roses blooming at the place where Rosalind's fingers touched the top of his head. Rosalind thought, the entrance should soon be appearing. Was the forest always this deep? Whatever the direction may be, if she just keeps walking straight, the entrance will probably show up. Then she thought, what? This is not what she thought. Rosalind spoke, this forest is incredibly wide. It seems much bigger than what she saw on the map. Julian replied, that's because this is still an undeveloped area. Rosalind asked, what do he mean by undeveloped area? Julian started looking at he. Rosalind asked. Why is he staring at her like that? Suddenly, another person appeared. The person said he has lost his way and asked if they would please take him with them. Julian replied. Sorry, he think it's most likely his fault. The direction we are headed is different, and he don't know where her destination is. The person again said he has lost his way and asked if they would please take him with them. Rosalind thought she couldn't tell whether it had a high or low-pitched voice, and even though it was tumbling over its words, it somehow sounded more distinct than before. Rosalind asked, What exactly is that person? Julian replied, It's something we are unable to know. Then Julian stated, As he can see, he is a child. His position is such that it is hard to even take care of his own body, so for a person like himself, he doesn't think he can take responsibility for anyone else. Also, he doesn't want to deal with someone else's life irresponsibly. Then the person started fading away. Rosalind asked, Did he send that spirit to rest? Julian replied, Well, he took its power, thereby dispersing it. If a person comes along who can help lay a spirit to rest, then it's meant to be. Rosalind thought. Do they call this a spiritual ability? Was that light coming out of his eyes? Did she see it wrong? Julian said, He is right now, since it seemed like it was going to pop out again after sinking into the ground. He took out enough of its soul that it won't be able to maintain its shape. Rosalind thought, Come to think of it, the Duke also had that kind of strange glowing eyes. Maybe the Duke has the same ability as Julian. After some time, Rosalind asked, Julian, is he all right? Julian replied, Yes, he is fine. Thanks to her, his legs have been fully healed as well. Rosalind thought, when she put the splint on, it was definitely red and swollen. Do injuries heal when a spirit's soul is absorbed? Julian said, Looks like this is where the forest ends. Thanks for today. He will now be heading back to the dormitory. Rosalind started walking, and then a knight spoke, Your Grace. He was worried because she disappeared the second he took his eyes off her. Rosalind replied, She is sorry to cause him worry. The knight said, Not at all. He is just glad that we immediately found each other again. Rosalind thought, Immediately, hasn't too much time passed to call it immediately. Julian and she spent too much time walking in the forest. Wait, she is certain that her walking path was in a forest, though, by chance, did she imagine things? At the same time, in the imperial palace, the empress said, they have sent presents to them, so they would not have a private wedding ceremony. Is there any way to bring her to the empress palace before they set off for the east? She have to check whether the power from the count was passed down to her. The Marquis replied, That's why he have a plan. Then whispered to the empress to tell the plan. The empress stated, All right, proceed as such. On the other hand, all the maids welcomed her. Rosalind thought something about the atmosphere seemed strange. There were quite a few faces she didn't recognize. The butler spoke, Your Grace, there has been some trouble. The estate is on fire. Rosalind was shocked and asked, Fire? Where is the fire? The butler replied, The building that's quite far off from the main estate. It is an old building, which is not in use. It isn't a huge fire. However, they were unable to handle it without informing her first. Rosalind thought, How come everyone is this calm and composed? It's also weird that they waited until she returned. Is it because she told the butler to seek her permission before deciding things earlier? Or is it like Alphonse said, All these people here are testing me right now? The knight told the Duke it was an urgent report, stating that a fire had broken out at the estate. The Duke said they better confirm the situation at the estate and leave immediately. On the other hand, Rosalind thought, to be this composed even after setting a fire, they are really belittling her. She asked about the fire brigade. The butler replied that he had reached out to them, but at this rate, before the fire brigade arrives, it seems like the fire may spread. Rosalind thought she was worried. It seemed like the fire started at the kitchen counter. The problem was how to suppress this fire. If it's a fire caused by setting oil aflame, then water can't be used. Rosalind shouted for everyone to bring all the sacks of wheat, pour it out in all the areas, and do it quickly. She told Butler to check where the remaining embers were, and also take out the burnt furniture and break them apart. The butler thought it was beyond his expectations. Even in a situation where she had noticed this being a test from the servants, it was tough for an 18-year-old young lady to not be taken aback and calmly come up with countermeasures. Rosalind thought, never mind being taken aback by this situation. She couldn't believe everyone had a face of surprise. It seemed like they truly were testing her. She had no choice but to conclude that with these circumstances, when it comes to failing to deal with it, they would just use the excuse that she told the butler to always seek her approval before making a move, and since they did contact the fire brigade, they must have been prepared for the worst. The most troubling thing is that there is no physical evidence that they dared to test the madam. Even if they did succeed, it doesn't change the fact that they tossed her into this situation, without knowing the consequences of their actions. Are they implying that only their pride matters? In the start, she was certain that their work was effective and their abilities were good. But there is a key problem: they don't have consideration. Rosalind asked how such a fire began. The butler replied that a maid secretly came here to make snacks for her consumption, and accidentally overturned a barrel of oil kept in the kitchen, thus causing a fire. Rosalind asked if they were cooking out here, but he said this building was set to be demolished. Who is the one that caused the fire? The maids replied they saw that child come out of the kitchen. Deborah asked what they meant, as it was not her. The maids said she left her position during the lunch break. And another one said they did not see her hanging around here as well. They couldn't believe she was lying in front of adults. Rosalind stated to stop. They said this child set the fire. The maids replied Deborah was a child who came to the estate just 4 days ago. Rosalind thought if it's 4 days ago, then she must have been brought to replace the servants she fired. The butler spoke. Madam, she hired her with the utmost care, so he really did not expect this sort of thing to happen. Rosalind thought he was speaking as if he was pitying her. In the end, all he was doing was scolding her for hiring a troublemaker, saying that she didn't have a good eye when it came to people. She didn't like this. The butler asked what he should do. Should he cut her salary or dismiss her? Rosalind stated she would not make Deborah bear responsibility. It has not even been that long since she was let into this estate. If she gets kicked out because of this incident, the child will never be hired by any other estate. The butler asked if she intended to show mercy and sympathy for Deborah's situation. Rosalind stated that she can't allow him not to bear the responsibility. Although she is the mistress, she cannot command all the servants of the Grand Duchy alone. That's why she entrusted him as the butler for the education and maintenance of the new recruits, paying attention to Deborah's surroundings, and making sure she doesn't cause any accidents. That's the duty of the butler, and today he neglected that duty. She can forgive Deborah's mistake, that of a naive, rookie maid. But as the caretaker who has looked after the servants of the estate for decades, she cannot overlook his mistake. She cannot help but question his qualifications as the butler of the Grand Duchy. The butler was shocked. Rosalind stated his salary shall be cut due to his negligence in the training and management of the new employees, since the responsibility of a butler and that of a maid varies heavily. The butler spoke, acknowledging his mistake and accepting His Grace's decision. He expressed his gratitude for learning how wise His Grace is. He explained that a true hierarchical structure is not about a subordinate shouldering the sins of their superior, but the superior bearing the sins of their subordinate. Meeting an employee one can respect is an employee's greatest pleasure. After that, Deborah thanked Rosalind for saving her. Rosalind replied that she just did what should have been done, so there was no need for thanks. She added that without power, one can easily fall victim in such a situation. Deborah was just unlucky today. Deborah spoke again, saying that it was probably not the reason they accused her of being the culprit. The truth was that Maid Katerina said she didn't think of Her Majesty as a bad person, and Deborah had agreed. Which led to everyone beginning to hate her, saying she was taking Her Grace's side. Rosalind thought it was not over just because she bothered the butler. She would have to take the opportunity to change everything from top to bottom. At night, Rosalind asked to see the servants' work schedule. The butler replied that they did not draw up work schedules. All the servants had a uniform schedule and worked according to the timing, when the master was not at the estate. Rosalind said that didn't seem like a very good method. The system was completely designed for the employees' convenience. since the Duke went to work at dawn and didn't return until late at night. The servants would not be able to show courtesy to their employer every day. She was especially concerned about the hour for meals and 30 minutes for breaks during lunchtime. With everyone taking a break at the same time, she was worried about the fact that everything on the estate halted during that time. The butler replied that he understood her concern, but they only took their breaks after completing all the basic tasks during that 1.5 hours. Rosalind stated that if an unexpected situation, like a fire, arose again, would he be able to deal with it immediately. She decided they would adopt a shift system. In the next scene, the Duke came and asked if he heard there was a fire. Rosalind tried to tell him the details, but the Duke replied that wasn't it. He was asking if she was all right. Rosalind said she was all right. The Duke stated he heard that she went inside the burning kitchen and told her not to do that sort of reckless thing. Rosalind thought that the Duke was complimenting her. She said that if she had not entered to inspect, she could not have determined the cause of the flames. She apologized and admitted she did wrong. The Duke wondered if she was injured anywhere and if her body was all right. He wanted to talk about something that was not related to work. What should he say? The Duke asked what she had eaten. Rosalind replied that she had tomato salad and mashed potatoes. The Duke asked how it was. Rosalind replied that the taste was familiar. The Duke then asked Rosalind to ask him too. Rosalind asked what he did today. The Duke replied that he worked today and would have to work tomorrow too. He asked if there was anything she wanted from him, and if there was anything he could do for her. Rosalind replied that she would like to take the child named Deborah as her personal maid. The Duke replied for her to do as she pleased. Rosalind thanked him. After some time, the Duke thought about that child. This was an opportunity for him to learn more about her. After that, the Duke said, "So that child is Deborah, but this child, is she feeling ill?" The butler replied, "No, despite being skinny, she was only hired after getting a clean bill of health from the doctor." The Duke asked, "Then why is she shaking like that?" Anyway, Rosalind said she would like to have her as her personal maid. Does she know the reason why? Deborah replied, "She is not sure." The Duke told her, "If she don't know, then just say as such. What's with the, she is not sure? Is there anything she suspect as the reason?" Deborah replied, "She apologizes. Master, she does not know the reason." The Duke asked. Rosalind went so far as to request Deborah to be her personal maid. "But why is it that she doesn't know the reason?" Deborah replied, "She apologizes. Please spare her life." The Duke asked, "Have he ever killed an employee of the estate before?" The butler replied, "He has not." The Duke thought, with things like this, he wouldn't be able to talk to her. Then he said, "Raise Deborah's salary by 20 times. The butler was shocked. The Duke stated, he will be entrusting her with a massive job. Consider this salary raise as overtime pay. Figure out what it is that Rosalind favors and report it to him, documenting every detail without missing a single one. On the other hand, the Empress asked, "The operation failed." The Marquis replied, "It was wrong of them to entrust this job to such a bunch of lousy mercenaries to begin with. That failure has made the security that much tighter. It will be hard to have assassins infiltrate anymore." The Empress asked if there really was no good method. The Marquis replied, "It's not that there isn't a way. It is said that the Grand Duke will be holding his wedding ceremony at an outdoor wedding hall. There will be many eyes on the outdoor wedding ceremony, so it will be difficult to secretly approach her. The Duke and Duchess have to hire a professional designer. If they are having a wedding dress and bouquet made, if they win over all the renowned designers from the capital, it will be possible to approach the bride without much trouble." The next day, the Empress asked, "What? She didn't call for a dressmaker. What is he talking about?" The Marquis replied, "It's just like she heard. Rosalind said that she will be altering the previous Grand Duchess's wedding dress." The Empress thought, for each and every attempt to end up in failure, they will have to change their method if they are to approach her. The scene changed to the Duke, surrounded by a soft yet pleasant fragrance of roses. This must be a dream from his memory, when she came towards him. Rosalind spoke, "Julian, come here. It's fine, he can come here." Julian speak when he was younger. He didn't have the power to protect her, but after gaining power, she was no longer here. Rosalind replied, "All right, Julian, she is still by his side." Julian spoke, "But there is no way. He doesn't want to wake up. No, please wait." The Duke woke up and thought he hadn't dreamed of her since meeting Rosalind, but to have dreamed of Rosalind again at this point, how pathetic. They are different people, but as a man with a wife, for his heart to flutter while thinking of another woman, he has to apologize to her. After some time, Rosalind asked, "Why is he standing outside like that and not coming in?" The Duke said, "He has come to apologize to her." Rosalind was shocked. She thought, what does the Duke have to apologize to her for? Although the plan to have a simple wedding ceremony has changed, is that something the Duke needs to apologize for? Rosalind replied, "It's all right. It's not like he did it on purpose, and it's a situation that couldn't be helped, isn't it?" The Duke thought he hadn't even shared the content of his dream. How did she get to know? Is this the so-called women's intuition? The Duke stated, he is sorry. He claimed to take care of her himself and acted all conceited. Rosalind told him, "It's all right. She don't concern herself with that sort of stuff anyway. It's not like she can do anything about it with her powers anyway. It's rather comfortable to just give up." The Duke stated, "Don't say things like that." Rosalind replied, "It is not that serious of a matter, though." She then thought, since it's a private wedding ceremony anyway, there won't be a huge problem. The Duke said, "He is pushing himself. He is her husband. He is sure he said that he would fulfill all of his duties as her husband. Whatever happens, his decision will not change. Bear that in mind." Rosalind thought, what should she do? The Duke has been doing everything, whatever duty it may be. If that's the case, then there is only one thing left. Rosalind asked, "That duty, when shall we start doing it?" The Duke replied, "From this very moment." Rosalind thought, what? She had been preparing herself after what happened the other night. Doing it so soon. They have not even had their wedding ceremony yet. The Duke replied, "We will do it after he hear her response." Rosalind thought, that's a relief. He wasn't saying they would do it right this second. At least he seems to be respecting her decision. She always thinks it's too early to do it, but in any case, as long as they are a married couple, she will have to fulfill her duties even if it's a contractual relationship. His hands are warm. Still, it feels like her heart can rest easy if she is holding them like this. She is not confident. But this isn't something she can just keep on avoiding forever. She will definitely be able to do it. Rosalind stated, "All right, then see him tonight. By any chance, will he be getting off work late night as well?" The Duke replied, "Probably at dawn. No, he will come as early as possible." Then he thought, his Rosalind is here. It's true that Rosalind was his first love. He is not going to deny it. But his wife is Rosalind now. From this moment onward, he will only be loyal to Rosalind. After some time, Deborah told her she has an appointment. Today is the day when the designer who will be making her Grace's wedding dress is scheduled to come. She can ring the bell twice when she is ready. Rosalind stated, "Ring the bell." She mean like this. Wait, does being ready mean, by any chance, has the designer already arrived? The designer came and introduced herself as Gertrude Barth, the best designer in the capital. Rosalind thought she heard that Gertrude is an incredible person who takes a lot of pride in her work and even turned down the offer to be the princess's exclusive designer. Then Rosalind thought about choosing the dresses. Gertrude thought, as expected, she doesn't know anything and is just standing absent-mindedly. Why does she, the #1 designer in the entire empire, have to make a dress for a lowly criminal's daughter? Rosalind asked if she was aware that the wedding will be held outside. These dresses have a subtle bluish tinge to them, which indeed complements various interiors and indoor features. However, won't they look rather drab when worn outdoors? Gertrude thought she is right. Even if they could keep the pearl aesthetics alive, they will not appear as brilliant under the sunlight, so this lady knows fashion. Rosalind said, rather than a dress with a bluish tinge, wouldn't it be best to go completely white or something that has a bit of silver mixed in, and rather than fluffy adornments, she wants crisp ones. Gertrude replied, if they do that, different parts will look bland. Rosalind said, isn't figuring that out Miss Gertrude's duty as a designer. She will take 3 different designs, which she explained all to her, and told her to show the 3 designs that she picked out to the Duke. She will go with the one he chooses. Next scene, Gertrude told the Duke, Her Grace said she will do as His Grace decides. The Duke thought, if she likes them all, she can just buy all 3. He wondered why she was thinking so hard. They will fit her perfectly anyway. Then he said, Let's order all 3, Gertrude replied. There's no way Her Grace will be able to walk up to the altar wearing all 3. The Duke thought, but she can look wonderful in whatever she wears. It seems that Rosalind likes comfortable attire more than dressing up. Then the Duke asked, what does she think makes a well-suited dress? Gertrude thought, weren't they talking about using Her Grace's dress? Why is His Grace suddenly asking about what's well-suited? Don't tell her. The majority of noble persons do grand weddings for the sake of showing off their power. But the Duke was trying to get this over with and immediately run away to the east. There is another chance that the Duke really means to wear a dress, the ice-like Grand Duke's dress. This will be an innovative challenge that she has never undertaken before. Everyone has desires that they cannot share freely with others, but the Duke has decided to be courageous and reveal his true self. Gertrude stated, His Grace, this is the most impressive robin lace dress that would suit best. The Duke replied, if that's the case, let's go with that one. Now she should leave. Gertrude asked, but he has yet to decide on a dress for Her Grace, though. The Duke asked, didn't he just pick one? Gertrude thought, on top of that, a couple's dress, wow, the Duke's love is amazing for his wife. Gertrude said, understood. She will not shy away from slaving throughout the night to make it happen. Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.